official found it pays to check the photo and know your rights.
Depending on your viewpoint, they can either be a pain when you're out on the road or an additional measure of safety. Nobody enjoys getting that unexpected letter and photo in the mail, as well as being slugged with the fine which goes along. On the other hand, in the first 12 months after speed cameras were introduced onto our roads back in May 1997, we had our lowest road toll in 42 years. But despite the high level of technology involved in the units, there might still be room for error.
Well, when I looked at it, I thought, now, hang on a minute. If there was one vehicle just in the picture, fine, I'd cop that sweet. But given that there was another car in the foreground, more dominant than mine, sort of raised a few questions. Did it interfere with the radar at all?
Adam Mora was caught on film driving along Milton Road 2 weeks ago. His was the car driving away from the camera and not the one which takes up the major portion of the photo. He was clocked doing 74 in a 60 zone, and he can't remember whether he was exceeding the speed limit or not.
Look, I could have been.
But you're not sure?
Not sure, no.
Anything that is in between Adam's car and the camera detection unit certainly would be raising questions in my mind as to whether that was a valid result or not.
Shamebearing is a former public servant who set up a business called Red Tape Busters to help people work their way through bureaucratic channels. He knows how the system works and the fact the speed camera film is analysed by public servants who make the call on whether a fine should be issued.
People can make mistakes. They don't mean to make them. They're unavoidable, though. Everybody does make mistakes. So if you think a mistake's been made, ask questions and challenge the process.
In the early stages, naturally, we did have some teething problems, but we've come through that period, and at the moment, things are running very smoothly.
More than one car in the photo is a common source of complaint to the police by people who believe it may have been the other vehicle speeding. But while it may not be plainly obvious, the photographs actually do show which car is at fault, with either an A or F written in the top left-hand corner of the data block.
If it's an A, that denotes that the vehicle which activated the camera was the vehicle which was travelling away from the device. If that figure is an F, that denotes that the vehicle which activated the camera was the vehicle travelling towards the device or forward of the device.
Another common complaint by drivers photographed is they simply don't believe they were speeding at all. Their argument is they've always kept one eye on the speedo to make sure they didn't exceed the speed limit and then point the finger at the camera for being at fault.
They get caught in the speed camera and then they write a letter in saying that our equipment's faulty, when in fact they have their speedometer checked by the RACQ or some reputable organisation, and it turns out that their speedometer is faulty, you know.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't question a speed camera infringement notice if you believe you've done nothing wrong. And if there are extenuating circumstances, like you were rushing someone to hospital, then the police say they'll more than likely waive the ticket. Shane's advised Adam to write a letter to the traffic camera office because of the doubts he has concerning the photo.
Well, I think I'll write to the police and point out that there's another car in the picture, and I have some concerns about that.
And Shane reckons even if you get knocked back and still have to pay the fine, you've really lost nothing by trying.
For the cost of a stamp, your 45 cents and an hour's time just to sit down and write a letter to a public servant, challenging the process, outlining your circumstances, I think you may as well have a go.
The police also want you to write in if you think they were in the wrong, because they want everyone to be confident in the work they're doing.
We just need to make sure everything's correct. We don't want to be conducting a program which is not 100% spot on.
And just a reminder before we go, there's a charity auction on tonight.